The following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Access Television, the City of Oshkosh, the Oshkosh Cable Television Advisory Commission, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everyone, welcome to Eye on Oshkosh. Cheryl Hentz along with my co-host Dan Rylance. On this particular edition, we're very pleased to be joined by two gentlemen who are divorced men and very caring and loving fathers, and that is kind of what the show is all about. Equal rights for fathers, and we're going to be talking about fit parenting, because not every parent necessarily, as I read in some of your literature online, is necessarily deserving of having equal rights with respect to their children, but fit parents is what we're talking about here. Anyway, for the longest time, I think fathers probably, and these gentlemen would agree, have kind of gotten the raw end of the deal in many divorce cases and child custody issue cases, and they belong to an organization called Wisconsin Fathers for Children and Families. And they're here tonight to talk about what the organization's about, what it does, and what you can do to get involved with them. So Ken Walker is to my left, and to his left is Steve Blake. And welcome. Thanks very much for being here tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Well, your name, for short, it's just kind of known as Wisconsin Fathers.
Correct.
So we'll just refer to it as that for the rest of the show. But the name refers to fathers and children, but your group is actually made up of men and women alike, right?
Absolutely. We have mostly dads, but also second wives or girlfriends. We have quite a few grandparents. Grandparents are the forgotten victims in this situation. So we have some grandmoms. As a matter of fact, we have a lady in Utah who just joined the organization the other day.
From Utah?
She's in Utah.
Wow.
Her son's in Korea, where he's teaching school. And she signed up for both of them because his case is here in Wisconsin, and he's having problems with his kids and child support and that sort of thing. So she called me, and I directed her to the website, and she liked what she saw, so she joined up. And we certainly appreciate that.
Sure. And they do have a website. It's wisconsinfathers.org. Throughout the next 55 minutes or so, we'll be putting that website address up on the screen. There's a hotline number also that we'll be giving you during the course of the show as well. Let's talk a little bit about the group. Now, your mission statement that is on your website, it says, all fit parents are entitled to joint custody and to assume equal placement of their children. Parents, not courts, should decide what's in the best interest of their children. Child support should be based on realistic economic needs of the children in both households. The responsibilities to support children emotionally and financially should be treated the same for mothers and fathers. And our present winner-take-all legal process dealing with family law matters involving children is emotionally and financially damaging to children and families, and it needs to be reformed. There is some legislation that is currently pending, correct, called the Equal Placement Bill. Why don't we talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into the crux of your organization and what you're doing.
Okay. The Equal Placement Bill, what it intends to do is to create a presumption that placement that is equalized to the greatest degree is in the best interest of the children. It will also raise the standard of proof to rebut this presumption to, if there's clear and convincing evidence that equal placement is not in the best interest of the children, then the judge will have more discretion as to how he determines custody. Mm-hmm. It will also change a little bit the current criteria for changing custody or placement. And actually, we like to use placement when we're talking about where the child lives. Okay, there's two different factors. There's legal custody, and then there's physical placement, and these are two different things. Sometimes people confuse the two.
Sure.
Perhaps we can go on to that a little bit later.
Sure.
But currently, the law presumes that status quo is in the children's best interest. What this bill will do will change that to allow for, say for example, a dad moves or gets a new job, which would make things easier for him to provide for his children. That will allow the judge to consider that factor when asking to change the placement schedule.
Okay.
Also, if a parent has gone through anger management or alcohol dependency treatment successfully, that will also become a factor in that parent's favor so that they can regain placement of their children.
Where in the legislative process is this bill at right now?
Right now, it has been heard by the Children and Family Law Committee in the Assembly, and we're waiting for them to hold what's called an executive session to vote on that. And it is currently assigned to the Judiciary Committee in the Senate, but they have not yet assigned a hearing.
Okay.
Now, last session, this bill came up again. It actually passed through the Assembly at almost 2-to-1 margin, but it unfortunately died in the Senate. Senate committee, Senator Ressler, who I guess is the senator from around here,
Yep.
she had domestic violence concerns, and so she wouldn't support the bill, and that was the end of it last session.
Okay. So how did your organization get started? Let's start there. How did it get started, and tell us a little history about it.
From what I know, 20 years ago, I think it was 5 fathers got together that were beat up in the court system, not allowing access to their children or minimal access, and they just got together and started out from grassroots. So.
With 5, I would say it's
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
grassroots.
yep.
Okay. Go ahead, Dan.
I want to go back to equal placement just for a sec. Other than Ressler's argument, are there any other reasons, opposition to this? I mean, what?
Bar Association is opposed.
Okay.
The Family Law section of the Bar Association has registered in opposition in principle.
Okay.
What my personal opinion is, what they're afraid of is losing business.
Okay.
Because if equal placement is a presumption, there's far less reason for parents to walk into court and have a big fight. And if there's not protracted litigation, then lawyers don't make money. Therefore, the Bar Association is opposed. That's my take on it. What they say is that cookie cutter solutions are not good for anybody, and that the courts and the judges should have discretion, depending on to decide where the kids go. Our position is that parents know best what's in their children's best interest. As a matter of fact, it's a fundamental tenet of the law that fit parents will have their children's best interest at heart. Now, a lot of the people I talk to on our hotline tell me, well, the judge granted custody one way or the other. And I point out to them, no, judges don't grant custody to anybody. God grants us custody of our children. The only thing judges do is take it away. And that's a significant point that people need to understand. Okay, we don't go to the state for a license to have children. The state does not come and check out your house and what you're doing for what you work and what kind of shoes you buy your kids and that sort of thing. There is an assumption that fit parents will take care of their children to the best of their ability. And further, it is assumed that without protracted legal proceedings, that parents are fit. You have to do something wrong to lose custody of your children, unless you're divorced. If you get a divorce, now all of a sudden the state feels that it has the right to, like I said, ask where you work and what kind of shoes you buy the kids and what religion and where they go to school or how many bedrooms you got, none of which we feel is really the state's business.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 other pieces of legislation. Is equal placement further along in the process than the other 2 at this point?
Depends on what 2 you're referring to.
Moving away and custody studies, which are
Okay.
the other 2 bills. And maybe you could explain each of them, huh?
Okay, actually there's 4 bills that we're following.
Okay.
AB 309 will require that custody studies adhere to the rules of evidence. In other words, You can and cross-examine the custody evaluator, ask why he came to the conclusions he came to, what criteria he used, none of which you can do right now. Currently, what often happens is at the last minute in your divorce case, the custody evaluator will submit the custody evaluation, and the court either accepts it or rejects it regardless, but you don't have the opportunity to question the custody evaluator excuse me, as to how he came to his conclusions. AB 309 will change that, and that is actually moving along well. It passed through the Family Law Committee in the Assembly unanimously. So we're very optimistic that that one is going to make it through. Okay. The move-away legislation, which would have reduced the distance that you can move with a child away from the non-residential parent. Currently it's 150 miles. I would have reduced it down to 20 miles. That's moving without either permission of the non-residential parent or permission from the courts. Okay. However, the author, I talked to him the other day, and it has been amended to the point where he's not willing to support it anymore, and so I believe he's withdrawn it.
So it's a dead bill
that
maybe,
issue
huh?
is dead for this session. Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, just a minor thing, it's only related to divorce. Paternity, there is no mile limit. The
Okay.
custodial parent can move anywhere.
Okay.
Okay.
But just in divorce cases, the custodial parent can move 149 miles.
Okay. Now, you guys, and Steve, we should say that you are the president of Wisconsin Fathers,
I am.
correct? Okay.
I am.
And how long have you been a member, Ken?
I've been a member 5 years in this organization. I'm just got on the board of directors as of at-large position.
Well, congratulations.
But I do have the radio program here, if I could make a plug for it.
Sure, let's, yeah, go ahead and,
Okay, it's on WOCT FM 101.9. It's on Thursday evenings at 6:30, and then it repeats Mondays at 8:30, and then the following Thursday at 6:30.
okay.
And that'll be running through August 31st.
Okay.
I've done 12 shows already, and I've got, I think, like 16 more to go. Having fun at it, learning a lot.
Good, good.
So-
Well, you gentlemen both brought, you've got a couple of TV spots that you've recently put together. Have they started airing yet, or?
I'm going to start Monday in
Okay.
Milwaukee Market.
All right, so by the time this show airs, they will start, so they'll already be on the air in Milwaukee. We were having some technical difficulties earlier this evening, but we're going to try and run these. And the one relates to the equal placement bill, correct? So is there anything you need to do to set that up, or should we just have our director just run it right now?
Well, actually, the one ad basically introduces the organization, who we are, what we do, how to get in touch with us.
Okay, that one we're going to run a little bit later, I think, aren't we?
I don't know. It's up to you. Okay, this
Well,
is your show.
We were talking. We were talking about the equal placement. Is on the disc, which one is first?
I think the introductory ad. is
Okay, well
first.
then we'll run that one first. So if we can bring that up now and take a look at that.
If you or someone you know is a father who's been shut out of a child's life by a custody system that unfairly favors mothers, there is somewhere you can turn for help. Wisconsin Fathers for Children and Families is a group of fathers, grandparents, second wives, and others who understand how unfair the system can be and the pain that it causes. Kids need the love and support of both their parents. Help us to help you. Contact us now.
Nice ad. And we recognize you on there.
Younger. 20 years
Younger, less gray, but you know we've all been there.
So lucky.
And the second one, I guess if we could just show that right away too, since that does relate to the bill that we've been talking about. You know, I'm not sure if our director is ready to roll that just yet, but he's ready. Okay, I'm told he's set to go. So let's show that one now.
I love my mommy and my daddy. Why can't I be with both of them?
If you believe that parents should be treated equally in divorce, call 1-800-362-9472 and tell them you support the Equal Placement Bill. Again, that's 1-800-362-9472.
I jumped in at the tail end there. So, other than following some of these bills, what kinds of things is your group involved in?
Well, of course, we started out with a radio program last summer here. We have had rallies at the state capitol, 2 of them around Father's Day. We've had speakers come to our monthly meetings. This year, we hope to get a couple parade floats out there to show that we're out there. We've been at the Fighting Bob La Follette Fest in Baraboo in September.
Yeah, we had a table at Country Thunder down southeast corner of the state.
Yeah.
We had a table, I think, at the Democratic Convention in Milwaukee. We work with Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative and the Milwaukee Fatherhood Collaborative. As a matter of fact, we had a fatherhood conference in March that we held in conjunction with the Milwaukee Fatherhood Collaborative. That was held in Madison. That was the first statewide fatherhood conference that we participated in. We also have a hotline for dads or anybody to call in if they have questions. A lot of times when guys first get into this situation, or they first get into the system, they're kind of shell shocked, and often they're tossed out of their homes, and they need somebody to talk to who has gone through this before, and they can call our hotline, which is 608 all dads, ALLDADS. I don't know what the number is, but figure all dads is easy to remember, so
Sure.
we have that. And we also publish a periodical newsletter that has information about what's going on with the organization, what kind of legislation is we're watching. There's always a message from me in the newsletter, an update on what the board is doing, and general articles that are of interest to people in our situation.
How large of a group is this right now?
We have over 200 members across the state.
Okay, good. But certainly, there's a lot more folks out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Hopefully we can get some more members here in the Oshkosh area as a
Sure.
result of this program.
Well, let's talk about some of the more meaty issues that are involved in child custody cases where there is a divorce going on. Years ago, I think it was pretty much a given that the mother, unless she just did something horribly wrong, just automatically got custody, and it was primary custody, and the father would see the kids maybe a couple times a month on the weekends and maybe for certain holidays. Things have changed a lot over the years. Now we hear a lot of terms like joint custody with one parent having the physical custody, if you will. There's a lot of different ways that they kind of do this, but there's still is a lot of inequity, if you will, in the system.
85% of the time, moms get primary placement, and dads get to be visitors. Standard visitation schedule is every other weekend, and a couple hours during the week, 4 hours on Wednesday night. That is changing, but changing slowly. WFCF was closely involved in 1999, the last major revision in family law. And at that time, the legislature mandated that placement should be maximized between both parents. Our thinking and the intent of the legislature was that if a parent wanted maximum placement, both parents wanted maximum placement, that would have resulted in roughly equal placement. Unfortunately, that is not the way the courts have interpreted it since then. So that's why we're back at the Capitol in Madison with the word equal in the bill, because what the legislature needs to do is provide more clear guidance for the judges, so that they understand that equal is equal, and that moms and dads are equally important to their children and have an equal right to raise their kids, just like their children have an equal right to have their mothers and their fathers significantly involved in their lives. You can't be a significant parent every other weekend and 4 hours on Wednesday. It works out to roughly 28 hours a week.
Do the courts still impose a lot of things on couples in a divorce situation that they may not want? I mean, I know that certainly in divorce cases where they're going at each other hammer and tong, then it tends to be that the court just makes a decision. And we're going to talk about guardian ad litems too, because that's kind of a new thing that certainly wasn't around when we were younger, I don't think. But if the parents, even though they're getting divorced, are cooperative with each other and are able to get along, does that help in the placement?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, definitely. But I know what you mean is some people can spend their children's college fund and inheritance in attorney fees. Me, as an individual, I had 2 guardian ad litems. I had to go to they had state-mandated mediation. That didn't go anywhere. We did have child psychologists that had to be put into the equation, and that's sometimes health insurance picked it up, but sometimes it didn't. I believe that I spent $10,000 in my divorce. That could have gone towards the kids' college fund.
But you mentioned parents who do get along. One of the requirements of the law here in Wisconsin is that parents submit what's called a parenting plan. They sit down and they draw up, I'm going to take Billy to soccer, and you can take Christine to her ballet lessons, and I'll have the children either week on or week off, or however they want to work it out. And if they can cooperate, and that does happen. I mean, it's not like everybody fights all the time. Actually, the parents who really have their children's best interests at heart are the ones that are willing to sit down and put aside their differences and work in their children's best interest and admit and recognize that the other parent is just as important as they are. And under those circumstances, yes, that of course is the best outcome for everybody involved, including the state, because they don't have to, doesn't clog up the courts and that sort of thing. So it can happen, and the state provides a mechanism for that to happen. But unfortunately, those are not the people that come to us.
Now, the parenting plan, is that part of the mediation? Because mediation is now required in cases like this, right?
I don't think so yet. It's not.
You don't think it's required? Or?
No. I don't think it's being used to its fullest potential.
Okay.
And one of the, I think, weaknesses is that the parents, after their hostile breakup, the first court appearance, they have to bring in their parenting plan, and usually that's they're upset and
It's too early for a plan.
It's too early.
Yeah.
But then after that initial hostility, and especially that initial court hearing, then there's usually a little relaxing of tensions. And I know we had a speaker at one of our meetings last fall, Judge Welker, and his philosophy was the party that gives the most gets the most. So he looks for who's sharing, who's being fair, and that's his way of doing it. But there are, 270 circuit court judges throughout the state, and not all of them follow that.
Well, for example, in my case, the judge says, you two can't get along, so therefore I'm just going to give the kids to one side. My personal situation, I was like, well, wait a minute, I'm willing to get along, she's the one. But this is where like you said earlier, the old biases and attitudes prevail, is that mom is the nurturer and dad is the provider. So therefore mom gets the kids and dad gets the bills.
Well, and I'll just interject a personal thought here. Maybe why it was like that so many years ago is because back then we had so many moms who were stay-at-home moms. They weren't out working. Now, I think the majority of women are probably working, even if it's just part-time. They're outside of the home in most cases, doing things and earning money, and so it does only make sense, I think, that our laws with respect to this issue and so many others, change to reflect our changing times.
Well, not only that, more and more men are stepping up to get involved with child rearing, and I know I diapered many a bottom, and sat up with sick kids and took them to their t-ball games and doctor's appointments and that sort of thing, and that is more and more the trend.
Sure.
So you're absolutely right. As dads step up, they should be rewarded. Now, there are still far too many guys in this world who have the attitude, you take the kids and I'll take the truck. These are not our people, okay? And these are not the people that this law is intended to provide for. It doesn't mandate equal placement. All it says is that equalized placement is in the best interest of the children. We would like for them to have equal access to both of their parents. But if one parent is not going to be responsible, I mean, the court is not going to force somebody to have placement when they don't want it.
Okay. All right.
This sounds like a movie question. I'm thinking of a scene where the judge turns to the children and says, where would you like to live? Do courts listen to children's in terms of placements?
Only at an advanced age, I think.
Okay, well, like post-puberty, like young teenagers?
I believe
Would they
so,
listen
at
to
age,
it?
like 14, I think.
Well,
but
the older children, the courts can consider it,
Okay.
but children have diminished rights
Okay.
until they become emancipated at 18.
Okay.
They can't drink, they can't drive, they can't vote, they can't do a whole lot of things. And one of the problems with asking the kids who they want to be with is that they are likely to answer, well, we want to be with a parent who lets us do what we want to do.
Mm.
And that's because they're kids.
Sure.
Okay. Oftentimes in intact families, I know that was this way in my family, is wait until your father gets home. Then you're in trouble. Dad is the discipline, mom is the comforter, that sort of thing. These are cliches, but they're cliches for a reason. So often, children, if the judge asks, well, I don't want to go with Dad, he makes me do my homework, he makes me, come in on time and go to bed on time. Mom lets me get away with murder, I want to go with her. Which is why it's not necessarily a good idea. Yes, when they're older, the courts can ask and the courts can consider, but it certainly shouldn't be the final word.
And, we had mentioned earlier about these guardian ad litems, which is basically an attorney for the children. That we never heard of that years ago either. Guardian ad litems, so you've got the father and husband who's got his lawyer, and you've got the woman and the mother who's got her lawyer. Now the kids have their attorney, but it's not in every case. True?
True. Some do not have it. Usually when they're amicable and can get along, they do not have a guardian ad litem. It's when there is a confrontation, then a guardian ad litem is assigned by the circuit court judge or the family court commissioner, and then they are to look at the best interest of the children. Usually, though, as Steve just indicated, a guardian ad litem will do the cookie cutter 9-5 split, 9 days with the custodial person, primarily the mother, and then the 5 days with the father.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I had 2 guardian ad litems. One, in my particular case, took me from 9 hours a month to the standard cookie cutter arrangement, so I benefited from the first one.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yes,
though.
it was.
That's a
Yes,
good thing.
because when you only have every other Saturday from 1:30 to 6, that's not a lot of
Yeah.
time. And I didn't do anything wrong. I led a clean life, no criminal record, a couple speeding tickets, and my older son, I had more placement with him from an out-of-wedlock paternity situation than I did with my 2 younger children from a marriage where I was there from day one and changed the diapers and fed them and so on. That I just didn't understand, but in that particular case, the guardian ad litem did immediately grant that arrangement. The second guardian ad litem, that didn't work out good, but we won't go into that.
You could probably write a book along with
yes.
you and other fathers who have who have had
Well, you know,
problems like
a
that.
good example of how screwed up the system can be, we have a member who is authorized as a foster parent. Went through all the training and the background checks and all that sort of thing. The state says you're okay to be a foster parent of somebody else's kid, but you're not qualified to take care of your own child.
Yeah.
You know.
It's screwed up. You know, just something that I thought we should probably say. We should probably preface the rest of this show by saying, you know, even though you're an organization, you know, mostly comprised of men, you're not one of these organizations that's out there beating up on women, bashing women. You know, you're a constructive, proactive kind of organization, trying to do what's best for not just the kids, but the whole family as a family unit, even though it is fractured through divorce, right?
Well, our motto is the best parent is both parents. Our basic tenets are children deserve to have both their mothers and their fathers equally involved. What we want is the state to recognize that moms and dads are just as important to the children, and neither one nor the other should be preferred. Okay? In other words, we want our rights protected up to the point where we recognize that mom's rights are just as important. So you're right, we don't have problems with mothers. What we want is equality. We don't want superiority. We're not looking for, you know, father-only custody. What we're looking for is equal treatment and an equal playing field when we walk in the door. We think if people knew that the courts were going to treat both parents equally when they get to court, before they get to court,
Sure.
then there is no point in dredging out, well, you know, he's a couch potato and he sleeps on the couch all day, or, you know, well, she's a drunk and she's out, you know, partying with her girlfriends. All of this stuff is as long as it doesn't affect how the kids are treated, it's none of the state's business. If you're married, it's none of the state's business until it reaches the level where the children are endangered. If the children are not endangered, then what either parent, I mean, nobody is a perfect parent.
Right.
Okay? And to go into court and say, I'm a more perfect parent than he is, or I'm a more perfect parent than she is just wrong. That's not what we propose. What we propose is the state assumes that I'm a good parent because there's no proof that I'm not. Therefore, my rights are just as important and equal to her rights.
Also, getting back to the guardian ad litem, sometimes what they fall into the role of temporary orders have a way of becoming permanent orders. And when that guardian ad litem makes his report, he'll say this is a temporary order, but then all of a sudden it ends up that it's that 9-5 split or
Worse.
or worse. And then one party, usually the father, is fighting the uphill battle for the remaining years, just to get the equal access.
Okay. All right.
But your point is you're really pro-children.
Correct.
You're not anti-mother.
No,
Yeah,
no,
I
not
think
at all.
that's, you
Equal
kind of hit
placement.
that. But,
Children
so,
need the unique contributions that mom gives and the unique contributions that dad gives in order to become a well-rounded individual. How are kids supposed to learn what a woman is supposed to be like, how she's supposed to behave, how she's supposed to act, if she or he, boys or girls, don't have a mom actively involved in their lives? Similarly, how is a girl supposed to know how a responsible man is supposed to act and how he is supposed to treat women if she doesn't have a responsible man in her life? How is a boy supposed to learn how to be a man? How is he supposed to learn how to treat women and how to act responsibly if he doesn't have a man in his life? Now, and this is a point that perhaps we don't talk about now, but I do want to bring up, is the domestic violence issues, okay? No one is in favor of domestic violence. Certainly not us. There's nobody, responsible organizations, that are going to say, for example, that we should still have the rule of thumb. Okay, you know what the rule of thumb is? The rule?
Yeah.
Okay.
Heard of it. But explain it for our viewers.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
the rule of thumb, hundreds of years ago, you couldn't beat your wife with a stick thicker than your thumb. That's where the rule of thumb came from. Okay, but that was hundreds of years ago. You know, when I was growing up, and when you were, and I bet you too, we learned that you never hit a girl. You just don't. And I think most guys are that way. Okay, are there wife beaters? Yes. Okay, just like there's women who drive their children into lakes and leave them there to drown.
There's also women who beat their husbands.
Yeah.
That,
You know,
well,
we
see,
should make that point.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, well,
probably not as
absolutely.
many as men, but, you know,
Well,
since we're talking about
actually-
equality here.
Actually, there's a guy by the name of Fiebert. I can't recall his first name. He's a professor at the University of California, I believe, who has compiled a bibliography of over 200 studies from family law journals and social science journals, peer-reviewed stuff. Okay, I think the aggregate number of subjects is well over 200,000. He has found that the person who initiates violence, what they call interpersonal violence, or IPV, is just as often as the woman as it is the man. What the domestic violence groups do, domestic violence prevention coalitions and these people, what they do is they use Justice Department statistics to say that, you know, 85% of the time it's the man. Well, 85% of the time, if the cops come, it's the man who goes to jail.
Yeah.
And that skews the statistics. So if you come away from Justice Department statistics or law enforcement statistics and go to, like I said, social science studies or family law or family dynamic studies, you will find that just as often it's the woman who starts things as it is the man. As a matter of fact, there's a CDC study, 2001, I believe, that shows that less than a quarter of all the couples that they studied, 7,000 between the ages of 18 and 28, I think, which is probably the prime age for that sort of thing. They found that in less than 1/4 of all couples was there any violence at all. Of that 23.6% or something like that, of those people, half was reciprocal. In other words, the violence came from both parties. The other half, and this surprised even me, the other half showed that 70% of non-reciprocal violence was initiated by the woman.
Well, and that kind of ties in with, you know, we've interviewed people from the local domestic abuse shelter in the past, and, you know, abuse is not just a physical abuse. You know, it can be a verbal abuse, and in many cases it is. So, you know, that's something else that women can be doing against their husbands, not necessarily beating them up, you know.
Right.
So, go ahead, Dan.
Any same-sex partners, males that belong to your organization at all?
You know, not that I'm aware of.
Uh-huh.
There may be,
Uh-huh.
but not that have, you know, maybe it's like, don't ask, don't tell.
Have any women groups spoken against you at all? Have any complaints from women organizations at all?
At the hearing here on just January 24th, when we were discussing AB 571, the Equal Placement Bill,
Okay.
the Domestic Violence Coalition took strong exception to the bill based on their perception that it will allow batterers to be close to the women. They claim that 70% of batterers get custody of their children. Where they got this statistic from, I don't know. It came out in a PBS program called Breaking the Silence here last year. Unfortunately, PBS, or at least for the Domestic Violence Coalition's argument, PBS had to retract that and apologize because that's just not so. As a matter of fact, a lady by the name of Erin Pizzey, who started the first domestic violence shelter in England 30 years ago, 35 years ago, had to basically drop out of the movement because of the violence she saw perpetrated by women against men, which surprised her. She thought it was like the common perception that it's all men again, and all men are perpetrators and all women are victims, and that's just not the case. But the damaging part of this is the ease with which women can get the restraining orders, or TROs, temporary restraining orders. All they basically have to do is go into court, fill out the forms. Often they can go to the women's shelters first, and they'll send an advocate with them, and they'll say, this is how you fill it out, make sure you say this, make sure you say that, hand it in to the judge. The judge will issue a restraining order, and this is ex parte. In other words, only one person goes to court.
Only one side.
Only one
The
side
other side
goes to
doesn't.
court, right. Judge issues a restraining order. The next thing you know, the guy is on the street. Then she files for divorce, or even during a divorce, but this is a significant disadvantage. All of a sudden, you're homeless. You don't have your home, you don't have your kids, you don't have your car, you don't have access to your bank accounts, and yes, you get a hearing in 10 days, but unless you have friends that you can stay with, you're at a significant disadvantage.
Well, that brings up a question for me then, Steve. Your organization is certainly there to, help move legislation along and put your 2 cents worth in there for pending legislation or new legislation. But you're also kind of a support resource
Yes.
for men going through this, and, a way for them to help kind of navigate the waters. But do you then, in cases like that, provide resources for them if they are out on the street? I can't imagine that being as small as you are, covering a whole state, that you would have,
We don't
resources
have like
to-
shelters or anything like that.
Okay.
What we can do is direct them towards literature that's out there.
Okay.
We don't do lawyer referrals,
Okay.
but we can basically, all we can do is lend a sympathetic ear. Because the use of restraining orders in divorce cases is a growing epidemic, if I can use the terms that
Sure.
the women's groups use
Sure.
about domestic violence. Because once you have a restraining order on you, you can kiss any chance of equal placement goodbye. Because the judge is going to go, well, you've got this restraining order on you. I can't risk the children. And the problem with restraining orders is it turns turns due process on its head. In order to be convicted of a crime in this country, you need to be convicted, beyond a reasonable doubt. With a restraining order, in order to get it lifted, you have to prove that you didn't do something. It's very difficult to prove a negative. And under our system of justice, you shouldn't have to prove that you didn't do something. The state should have to prove that you did do something.
Right.
But the way the laws are written now, a woman can lie on her affidavit and get away with it. And there are no repercussions. This came up at the hearing, at the assembly hearing this past month. And one of the representatives said, well, there's laws against perjury and that sort of stuff. But the lawyer who was there from the Legislative Research Bureau, there's always one attends these, she says, well, yeah, there's laws, but they're almost never prosecuted, almost never enforced. And so we're really at a disadvantage. We had a lady there who works with young people. She's a mentor to troubled young women. And she said that they have, and this is fairly frequent, from her description anyway, that they have confided in her that, well, I'm going to get pregnant, and then I'll just call the police and have him tossed out. I'll have my baby, and he has to send me money. And they do this sometimes with multiple. They'll have 2 or 3 children from 2 or 3 different guys, and collect child support from all these 2 or 3 different guys, yet they're tossed out. They're excluded from their children's lives. And mom, who just lied through her teeth, the state's like, well, we don't do anything about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did have a restraining order on me. after 1 year of being apart from my ex-wife. Surprisingly, the Milwaukee County Circuit Court judge that lifted it was very gender biased, but he lifted it when he mandated that the exchange of the children take place at the police department. All of a sudden, it flipped around, and I was a model person, and she didn't want to be constrained to having to take the children where it would be on the record at the police department. So
Funny how that works sometimes,
yeah,
isn't
it did. But and then if you read the fine print with a restraining order, it's for 2 years, and it's, I believe, somebody can be thrown in jail just on the allegation of violating it.
Well, see, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Let's say you get a restraining order. The woman calls the guy up and says, "Gee, I'm sorry I did that. Let's make up. Come on over and see me."
Wrong move.
Wrong move, because as soon as he goes there, he's violated the order,
Yes, that's
and
right.
he goes to jail.
Yeah.
In my personal case, my ex-wife went to the judge, ex parte, and she told him that the children and I are terrified of his threats and anger. Judge didn't ask what did he threaten to do. I mean, we were getting divorced, so yes, there was anger, okay? But I never threatened anybody. Yet, at 10:30 in the morning on April 3rd of 1995, the sheriff's deputy showed up at my house with a piece of paper that says, "You can't live here anymore." I said, "What did I do?" They said, "We don't know." Where can I go? Not our problem. Our job is to give you 30 minutes to gather up some things and get you out of the house. And I never, to this day, I have never been back there. And I had done nothing wrong. So this is a serious, serious problem. And the women who worked and fought to get the laws that protect truly battered women should be outraged that there are people who will use those laws to an unfair advantage, lie to get the children or to get back at somebody.
Put them into
But I
poverty.
don't see this outrage from the domestic violence groups. What I see is women never lie about this stuff.
Yeah.
So, a serious problem for us, and this is one of the things that we have to deal with.
Sure.
And when I left too, I was homeless for about 4 months. Relatives took me in, but I was living out of my car in the winter. This was down in New Berlin. I had to stay at my place of employment. I would go at 9 o'clock at night and leave at 5:30 in the morning and hope I wouldn't get caught. Everything was in the van. That was a very bad time being
And this is not
being
unusual.
homeless.
I have done surveys, now granted, of our organization, people in our organization, granted, this is not a scientific survey, but on several occasions, I've asked them, how many of you have been victims of false allegations? Consistently, 75% say that, yes, we have been falsely accused of something.
We're down to about 8 minutes here, and I want to have a chance to show that one spot one more time before we wrap things up. Can we touch on two things that have kind of come up tonight? The silent victims, as you called them, Steve, the grandparents involved, and also child support. Do you folks do anything with respect to child support issues? And I don't think anyone at this table is saying that fathers or mothers should not pay child support. But, sometimes that can be kind of skewed in one direction too. So do you do anything with respect to child support?
Well, I am one of the counselors on the hotline, and I tell the people that call, yes, you have to support your children. I do encourage them to go to the court hearing. There's surprisingly a large percentage, and this was at the Milwaukee Fatherhood Collaborative, where they asked, the Milwaukee County Child Support Agencies asked how many people have not gone to any of their hearing. Well then, I think about a third of them raised their hand. They were too afraid to. They didn't want the court system involved. So based on that, they set the child support at a higher level than if they brought in their wage statements. But we like child support to be fair, And there are some studies, like the U.S. Department of Agriculture, that shows the cost of raising children is not as high as some of the percentage guidelines that Wisconsin uses. Example, 25% for 2 children. But
That's 25% of your income.
that's right, 25% of your all sources of income.
Gross income.
Gross income.
Okay.
There are, we do advise that how to prepare your case in court, pro se. We don't get compensated for that.
We don't provide legal advice.
Right, and we
None
do
of us
not
are lawyers.
provide legal advice, but sometimes when you're homeless, how do you afford a $2,000 down payment and $150 to $200 an hour for an attorney? It just doesn't happen. But I don't think there's any pending legislation right now on the child support issue, but obviously the Wisconsin DWD 40 rules state that if a father or non-custodial parent has a certain number of overnights, then the percentage standards don't apply. And that's where we're trying to advocate responsible fatherhood and taking the children for more than that standard cookie cutter 9-5, and maybe have a placement arrangement where it's 40%, where then, I believe that concept is they take the mother's income, the father's income, combine it, look at the ratio of overnights, and then determine child support based on that. Is that the general concept of DWD 40? I'm not inapplicable for that, so.
I'm not an expert in that either.
Okay.
But of course, we support responsible fatherhood. We support responsible parenthood. Okay. Having said that, oftentimes the court will set child support at a certain level based on your income. But what the court will not do, or it's hard to get the court to do, is to deviate. Say, for example, you get laid off. Well, the court says it doesn't matter, but I don't have any income. It doesn't matter. Pay your child support, or else. Your arrearages will back up, penalties, interest. They even, if you go to jail, your arrearages continue to accrue.
Yes.
And by the time, that's a lot of the guys, especially in Milwaukee, there's a serious problem with incarceration there. They come out of jail, and now they're $15,000, $20,000 in arrears. They're never going to be able to pay that off. But now they're looking at felony charges for failure to pay child support. So they go to the underground economy, or they go underground altogether.
Not to mention,
Or they end up on there's a law or a bill pending in the legislature right now to create a deadbeat website where they're going to have pictures and county of residence and how much they owe. Several of our board members, and we only have 7 people on the board, so it's a small circle. 2 of them one got a downward deviation a year ago, ordered by the court, which the DWD never acknowledged. So now he's $6,000 in arrears, but he's not really, because the court lowered his child support a year ago. So he would qualify for being on the deadbeat list, even though he's not really a deadbeat. Another one of our board members has paid, but it wasn't properly credited. So he would be on this list, even though he doesn't belong on it.
Okay. Grandparents. Notice how I look at you when I say.
I have 5 grandkids. It's a compliment.
So many times we hear, and fortunately it's not great, but we do hear about it more than we should. Grandparents not being allowed to see their grandchildren because the one parent, obviously the daughter-in-law or the son-in-law, has issues and won't permit it. Do grandparents have any rights in the state of Wisconsin at all, legal rights?
They are subservient to parental rights. The Supreme Court in 2000, in a decision called Troxel versus Granville, ruled that parents' rights are superior. So, like I said at the beginning of the program, the grandparents are really the forgotten victims. If Dad has every other weekend and the grandparents wanted to see their grandchildren, Mom could say no. And grandparents didn't do anything wrong. They didn't have the fight with the mom. They didn't get divorced. All they want to do is see their grandchildren. But under our current laws, they're just out of luck.
Are there any states at all that either of you are aware of where grandparents do have actual legal rights? I thought that I'd heard that, there's some state.
Yeah, I
have
don't
no
know.
idea.
Sorry.
Again,
It would be a hard law to write.
Yeah.
parental rights are superior in every state that I'm aware of. So that's why we're pushing for equality. Then the kids are with Dad half the time, with Mom half the time. That way both sets of grandparents get a reasonable opportunity to see the children.
Okay, good. Before we wrap things up here, let's roll that one spot again
Sure.
that tells
Sounds good to
what
me.
you guys are about and some contact information. So we can go ahead and roll that now if our director is ready.
I love my mommy and my daddy. Why can't I be with both of them?
If you believe that parents should be treated equally in divorce, call 1-800-362-9472 and tell them you support the Equal Placement Bill. Again, that's 1-800-362-9472.
Hotline. You call this between 8:30 and 4:30 Monday through Friday, and somebody at the Capitol will answer. You say, I want to support the Equal Placement Bill. What they will do is they'll ask, well, who's your representative? If you don't know, you can say, well, I live in Oshkosh and here's my address. They'll look it up for you and they will convey that message to the appropriate legislator.
Okay, so that's on that one. Again, 1-800-362-9472 for legislative-related issues. If you have any other kind of issue, question, concern, Wisconsin Fathers does run a hotline, and that number is 608-ALL-DADS. You're staffed 24/7 on that hotline? Or?
Well, what it is basically it's a phone mailbox. When people call in, they will get a selection of counselors around the state, so they don't have to make long-distance phone calls.
All right. Okay, excellent. Thank you both.
Thank
so
you.
very
Yes,
much
thank you very
for
much.
being
Thanks
here.
for having us.
It was, as Dan said, informative, and hopefully we can kind of even the playing field here a little bit. So.
Great.
Nice.
Thanks very much. And as always, thanks to Dan and the crew, and thanks to you for checking us out for the last hour. We'll see you next time. Until then, take good care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.